Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're going to be taking a look at Dubai's real estate market.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, Dubai is famous for its crazy highs and lows when it comes to real estate, but
Right?
is that roller coaster finally, like, slowing down a little bit?
Yeah. Is it starting to stabilize a bit more?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what we're going to try to figure out today. And to help us navigate this
Yeah.
exciting market, we're going to be turning to AI Real Estate Consultancy.
Okay.
They're a firm based right in the heart of Dubai, and they just put out this super interesting report that we're going to be looking at today.
Yeah. It's a great report. A lot of good information in there.
Yeah, so their report starts off with this chart
Okay.
that compares Dubai's price changes to other global cities like
Right.
Singapore, Sydney, and London.
Makes sense.
And let me tell you, Dubai's line looks like it belongs in a theme park.
Oh, really?
It's like all peaks and valleys
I bet.
compared to these other cities.
It's a really stark visual. It really underscores just how different Dubai's market has been.
Right.
Because unlike those more established markets, that we just mentioned, Dubai's real estate scene is actually relatively young. It hasn't had centuries to kind of mellow out yet.
So are we saying it's just a matter of time before Dubai settles down?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or is there something else more at play here?
Well, the report highlights a few key turning points in Dubai's real estate history.
Okay.
Going back to 2002 when Dubai opened its doors to foreign ownership,
Oh, yeah.
that was when things really started to take off.
Right.
Then, of course, we have the 2008 financial crisis,
Yeah.
which threw a wrench in the works, as you can imagine.
Yeah, that was a global shakeup.
Exactly.
Uh,
But then in recent years, we've seen signs of a more mature market starting to emerge.
okay.
And it's not just happening organically.
Hmm.
Dubai's been pretty proactive about trying to stabilize things.
Really?
They've introduced a digital property registration system, tightened up their mortgage rules. Okay.
And implemented some new regulations to try to boost investor trust.
So it's not just like a hands-off approach. They're actually trying to,
No, they're trying to steer the ship.
steer the ship. Okay.
Exactly.
Interesting.
One of the key points that the report makes is that Dubai is moving away from that boom and bust cycle
Okay.
and towards a more sustainable growth model.
Okay.
And there's this other chart that really grabbed my attention when I was reading through this report.
Okay.
It shows something called the standard deviation of price changes.
Okay.
Essentially, it measures like how much prices swing around,
Okay.
how wild of a ride it is.
So how volatile?
Exactly.
Okay.
So for those of us who are not statisticians, what does this chart tell us about Dubai?
Yeah, what's going on in Dubai?
Well, while Dubai's price swings are still a bit more dramatic compared to other global cities,
Right.
the key thing here is that the standard deviation has actually been shrinking over time.
Oh.
So it's like the roller coaster is getting a little less intense. So it's less of a white-knuckle experience for investors.
Hopefully.
Yeah, that's got to be a good sign, right?
It seems to be.
But what's driving this positive trend?
Yeah, that's the big question.
Did they figure that out in this report?
They did.
Okay.
And this is where it gets fascinating.
Okay.
So AI real estate consultancy points to population growth as a major factor.
Yeah.
You see, Dubai's population has been steadily increasing
Right.
as more people move in.
Yeah.
Demand for housing naturally rises.
Makes sense.
What's really interesting, though, is that the link between population growth and property prices in Dubai has actually been getting stronger.
So you're saying there's a tighter connection between how many people are living there
Exactly.
and what's happening to real estate prices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That suggests that the market is becoming more driven by actual demand,
Right.
by people actually needing places to live,
Yeah.
rather than just speculators hoping to flip properties for a quick profit.
Okay, so less speculation, more people actually moving there, living there.
Exactly.
Got it.
But hold on, the report also mentioned something about Shanghai, right?
Yeah, they do.
Weren't they seeing something different happening over there?
Yeah, so they point out that in Shanghai, government intervention actually led to a negative correlation between population growth and property prices.
Oh, wow.
So
that's-
basically, even though more people were moving to Shanghai, property prices were being held in check by government policies.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it highlights that there's very different ways
Right.
that governments are trying to manage these really complex markets.
Right. So two different paths.
Yeah, so Dubai's like leaning into the market forces,
Okay.
while Shanghai's taking this more controlled approach.
So two different paths.
Right.
But which one leads to a smoother ride for investors in the long run?
It's a good question.
It makes you wonder, okay, So getting back to AI real estate consultancies analysis,
Right.
they seem to be saying that Dubai's market is becoming more stable.
Yeah, more stable.
But let's be real, its history is a little bit wild. Yeah.
Are investors really just going to forget about that roller coaster past?
That's the big question, right? I mean, past volatility can definitely make investors hesitant.
Right.
But what we're seeing now is a shift in those underlying dynamics.
Okay.
That stronger connection between population growth and property prices.
Right.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a sign that the market is becoming more grounded in real demand.
So it's not just a playground for speculators anymore.
Right. It seems like more people are actually buying properties to live in Dubai.
Okay.
And that creates a much more stable foundation for long-term growth.
Right.
It doesn't mean that prices won't fluctuate,
Right.
but those swings are probably going to become less extreme over time.
Right. Because if the market is responding to actual housing needs,
Right.
it shouldn't be as vulnerable to those like sudden shifts in sentiment
Yeah.
that can cause those huge spikes or crashes.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just population growth that's contributing to this stability.
Yeah, sure.
AI real estate consultancy also highlights the role of government initiatives
Okay.
in promoting a more transparent and regulated market.
Right. They mentioned those things like that digital property registration platform
Yeah,
and those smarter mortgage rules
exactly.
designed to like prevent people from getting in over their heads.
Yes, and it's all about building investor confidence.
Right.
When the market is transparent and well-regulated,
Right.
investors are more likely to feel secure about putting their money in.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So to answer your question about whether investors will forget about Dubai's volatile past,
Yeah.
I think the answer is nuanced.
Yeah.
The past is certainly part of the story,
Right.
but it's not the whole story.
Okay, so AI real estate consultancy is basically saying
Yeah,
that while Dubai's real estate might have been a bit of a wild ride,
right.
there are signs that things are changing,
Yeah,
that it's maturing and becoming more predictable.
right.
But what does all this mean for someone who's actually thinking about investing in Dubai?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there's no easy answer.
Right.
It really depends on an individual's risk tolerance, their investment goals,
Right.
a whole host of other factors.
Yeah.
What AI real estate consultancy is suggesting
Okay.
is that investors need to look beyond the headlines,
Okay.
beyond that past volatility,
Right.
and focus on the underlying trends and fundamentals of the market.
So even if the market is showing signs of stable easing, it's still important to do your homework.
Absolutely. You got to understand the forces at play, the risks involved, and the potential rewards.
Right.
There's a lot to consider.
Yeah, this has been a fascinating deep dive into Dubai's real estate market.
Yeah, it has.
We've gone from that wild roller coaster ride to a more nuanced understanding of where things might be heading.
Definitely.
It sounds like Dubai's at a crossroads,
Yeah.
shifting from a market driven by speculation to one that's more grounded in real demand.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how this evolution continues to unfold in the coming years. Whether Dubai can truly shed its volatile reputation and become a haven for those long-term investors
Right.
remains to be seen.
It definitely leaves us with a lot to think about. So what can our listeners do if they want to dig deeper into this topic?
Well, AI real estate consultancy seems like a fantastic resource.
Yeah.
They clearly have a deep understanding of the market,
Yeah.
and their data-driven approach aligns perfectly with what we value here at the Deep Dive.
Yeah, it sounds like they could provide some really valuable insights for anyone who's serious about exploring Dubai's real estate scene.
Absolutely. And on that note,
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive for today.
It's been a fascinating journey through Dubai's real estate scene, hasn't it?
It really has.
We've seen the volatility,
Yeah,
the evolution, and the signs of a maturing market.
definitely.
And I think like one of the most important takeaways for listeners is that context is everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't just look at the headlines
Right.
or the past performance.
Yeah.
Dive deeper, understand the underlying trends,
Exactly.
and then make your decisions.
Make informed decisions.
Yeah.
Yes.
And if you're looking for more personalized insights,
Right.
AI real estate consultancy seems like a great resource.
Definitely.
They're clearly passionate about Dubai real estate,
Yeah,
and they got that data-driven approach that we love here at the Deep Dive.
for sure. For sure.
Definitely worth checking out if you're serious about exploring investment opportunities over there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Dubai's real estate market.
Oh,
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more informed
me too.
and maybe even a little less intimidated by Dubai's roller coaster reputation.
For sure. It's always fascinating to see these global markets evolve
Yeah.
and what factors drive their growth. And Dubai is a prime example of a market that's in transition.
Yeah, it is definitely a huge thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.